And I'll move my mic away. I can already tell it's a little hot. All right, and 3, 2, 1.
And 3, 2, 1.
Man, on that first one, either you were really late or that was some good Bluetooth delay there, Nick. But that's all right.
Always believe in the Bluetooth delay. Whatever you think you're hearing, it's all 2 seconds earlier.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're just way more on the ball than I actually think you are. Nick, we're flying without. We're jumping. We have no backup parachute.
There's no parachute.
No parachute. Whoa, no parachute. That's not a lot different than backup parachute. You could have told me
we're skydiving so with no parachute.
You did not hit record then?
I did hit record.
Well, no, you said we're skydiving without a parachute, and Nick, I'll tell you. I mean, if you jump out of an airplane,
what could go wrong. I do not understand what could possibly go wrong.
We don't have Craig. He's not here to help us. He normally is here to help us now. And yeah, so we had some internet fun, and by I shouldn't use the royal we. I should use me. Me had internet problems, and so we are talking on what is this called?
A telephone.
The telephone. I called you
in the 90s, right? You would like sit on your bed and do this. You'd like call people, right? But you would know the sequence of numbers that were required to reach these people, which is an experience I don't know anything about.
Oh my gosh, Nick! Do you know how? Okay, like straight up and down right here, and then we'll do the show. How many phone numbers do you have memorized?
I do think we've talked about this, so I feel bad, but I've got 3, including my own.
I agree. It counts. Your own counts. Good job.
It totally counts. So I have my wife's and I have my mom's, but my mom's I only have memorized because it's the same number that it's been since like 2005. Since like you needed to know like your mother's telephone number when you were like 14.
It's true.
But it's in the brain still. I actually do think that I have my my best friend in elementary school's number still memorized. I don't think his family still lives in that house. But I just want you to know that I could reach that house if I needed to.
You could reach them, and they could look them up, and then they could get you to the right place. So I don't
think they could look them up.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to be generous. I have me, which, as we agree, counts as 1. I have my wife. I'm very proud. I have my mom and my dad, and my childhood home phone number, which still is a thing. I mean, I feel like I can access the world regardless of what decade I'm in, as long as it's in a decade that there's phones and such.
You want to know why I'm impressed that you know your childhood phone home phone number? Because I don't have a home phone number anymore. Home phones.
Nick, I can't tell you how many forms I've filled out where it's like, what's your home phone number? What's your cell phone number? I'm like, do you want me to put them both? Because they're the same thing. They've been the same thing since
the last... put it twice. It's fine.
I'll just put it's fine.
It's fine.
All right. Let's do this. Welcome to the year we started a podcast. It's a podcast born Phoenix-like from the ashes from the ashes and slime of last year's podcast. I am your co-host, Jeff.
And I am Nick or whatever.
And this is our podcast where a couple of friends calling each other on their regular old phones, half a continent apart, that would like to come together and talk about some of the things that are fun and interesting to us. Nick, holy jamoli, have we talked some things into existence of here late.
Really?
Well, I mean,
I know there's a follow-up here, and I see I see broadly what it's about. Tell me what we're following up on here.
Well, the first one, Nick, you broke the news. We talked about NFTs and how it's a little weird, and how like you kind of do the thing where everybody just does like they just like buy their own thing and then they sell it for way more than it's actually worth, and then we posted that episode, and then like seconds later, a day later, what happened, Nick?
De'Aaron Fox just dipped out. It's just closed down his NFT. I didn't even read the details of it. I like, wait, was this actually, it was after the last time we recorded? I actually don't think I messaged it to you because I thought that you already knew when I read it. But
yeah, De'Aaron Fox. It might have been before. No, I had no idea that De'Aaron Fox had done that.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox dipped out on his NFT after raising over $1 million for it, right?
Yeah, it was like $1.6 million. And I would say that is about as legitimate as our claim to be people that break news and influence the world. Is about as valuable as the amount that NFT was worth. It wasn't just one, multiple ones, but yeah.
I am very clearly a prophet. You are all welcome for my my financial advice in here, and also nothing I say is ever financial advice, and you should never listen to anything I say.
Yes, I agree. Even as a person who literally works in the industry of financial stuff, please trust me. I mean, Nick knows me. I can. I might talk a good game, but the bar is only so high. So
right.
Please know who you're listening to.
Full amateur in the house.
Yeah, even though I've done it for a decade, please know it's only so good. Nick, the other thing that we have spoken into existence. Yes. Remember when we talked about a particular explorer, Ernest Shackleton, from like 107 or 8 years ago or whatever?
I do. Ernest Shackleton was a very amazing story.
Amazing story. They got stuck in the ice, abandoned ship, many months of very cold and very bad, but everybody lived.
And nobody dying.
Yeah, somehow everybody lived. Nick, I kid you not. Earlier today, what was announced was after 107 years, and after us releasing a podcast episode, they found the original ship.
What? That's crazy.
Literally, what are the chances? What are the odds?
That is so cool. The odds are astronomical is the answer, but that's so cool. That is insane.
Yeah, and I guess it's a pretty good condition. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say here. It's fairly new, and I was reading up on it a little bit. It's neat and cool, and has taken quite a while to find. I mean, it's been 107 years. I just thought, I've vaguely known of the story. I read up on it before the episode. Again, we're talking about something over 100 years ago,
right? And what are the It's
I just studied up on something and then just flipping. Well, now we find the ship. What in the world?
That's crazy. This is totally small world. That is super awesome. I'm impressed that it had held up at all. I mean, it's been in the South Pole, right? I mean,
yeah.
Details correct?
Yeah, ice and stuff. That'll do a good job. So despite all the things, I mean, at the end of the day, ships are well built and stick together, even if they get a little crushed by ice. So
too cool.
I don't know.
Too cool. One day we're gonna have to go to an exhibit of it. We're gonna have to go see it in person. It'll be cool.
That's fair. I'm down. I mean, honestly, if they pull that thing out of the ocean, I will. I feel like, being the people that spoke it into existence, I feel like we owe it to the world to at least make
I think they owe it to us to at least let us have the ship, I think.
Oh, you know what? I hadn't really thought. Yeah, because if we hadn't done it, then they wouldn't have.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's what's the thing where it's in the seas and all the laws.
It's maritime law.
Yeah, maritime law. As a maritime lawyer. Article 14. Verse 4. Is that how they are? They're verses? Is that how law works in maritime law? I feel like.
As a maritime lawyer, I can neither confirm nor deny this, but I can't confirm that it's now our boat. That's what I can confirm.
All right. Well, we talked into the existence the first time. Now we can talk into our ownership this time. I feel like that's only fair. Oh, man. What else is going on in your world, Nick?
Okay, so I have two little things that I wanted to talk with you about. I actually have was going to research something big for today, but you said you had stuff, and so I was like, I would rather just talk to you about two fun things. And Jeff,
all right,
fun thing number one is that have you seen the ads for Winning Time on HBO?
No, I have not seen the ads for Winning Time on HBO.
Okay, so HBO is doing a series on the 80s Lakers, and they just dropped the first episode this last week.
Snap. Maybe I have heard that this is a thing that exists. Did you tell me that this is a thing that exists?
I don't believe so. I don't believe I have. So, it's called Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, I believe is the full name. I know it's called Winning Time something like that. Hold on, let me make sure that I get the name properly at least.
The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. So it's a mini-series about the Showtime Lakers, the 80s Lakers, and it is loosely based off of a book that was about the same time period. It's kind of the early days of that Lakers dynasty are a very transformative time for the NBA and for the Lakers in general. They got a new owner in the early 80s who was the owner for over 30 years, and his children are still the owners today. He's the late Dr. Buss. They drafted Magic Johnson, probably heard of him once or twice. They had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yeah, had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the end of his prime and into the later stages of his career. Also probably heard of him once or twice,
once or twice.
Yep. And the NBA was kind of going through this tumultuous period of time for people who don't care about basketball or whatever, in that they had very low ratings in the 70s, and the game was kind of not considered to be a very profitable or exciting game. There were games or NBA final games that were literally not broadcasted. They were on tape delay, so they would only play at night as a recorded version, and you wouldn't even get the full game.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know, because the game, it was just so unpopular relative to football and baseball, and so the end of the 70s, there was another professional basketball league in the 70s called the ABA, the American Basketball Association, and in the late 70s, the ABA merged with the NBA, and the NBA was basically trying to get itself back on track and trying to get a bigger market share and get people excited about it. And I mean, you can't draw a direct line to what did it. But there's a really good argument to be made that it was kind of Magic, Larry, and then later Michael Jordan. It all came in this 4-year period. Magic and Larry Bird came in at the same time, and
yeah.
So it's just an interesting time in the Lakers. Their coach at the time was Jerry West. They've got Jerry West depicted in it, and the series is not going to be a very serious one. I can already tell. It's starring John C. Reilly.
I do. Yeah, I am looking at the cast. I'll also say the guy who plays Larry Bird looks a little bit like a weird Mark Zuckerberg-ish type of guy, and I don't know how I feel about that.
I feel like that's a very good depiction. He's not really featured in the first episode, but he's a pretty visually good look for him, and they already are making jokes about him and stuff. It's great. I love it.
Okay, good.
So I guess people are a little upset because it's definitely dramatizing some of this stuff, and so it's made some people look badly, I guess, relative to Jerry West is depicted kind of more aggressively than he is in real life. In real life, Jerry West is a very, very beloved figure in the NBA. He is a very depressed person. He's one of the first guys to kind of talk about mental health and depression and stuff as a former athlete. And so, it's kind of a tortured soul is the impression I always got. And that wasn't the depiction of him. He kind of played him more curmudgeonly and angry in the first episode. But I assumed that they were going to take artistic liberties with it. I assume that they're going to play it up. It is also an HBO show. It has nudity right out the gate. So, don't watch it.
So it goes.
Yeah, but it's so far the first episode was really fun, and it's probably not going to be a crazy documentary that really gives you the nitty gritty, but it'll be I think it's going to be a fun depiction of a cool time.
Do you know what the expected timeline is that it's going to cover? Does it go into the early 90s with the HIV stuff, or is this truly more of the
I think so.
Okay.
Without trying to spoil anything, it opens on Magic in a doctor's office. So I assume.
Gotcha. So. Okay. Anyways, what I was going with, where I was going with that was I obviously know all of that was a thing that happened, but that was all before my time, and
right.
I haven't really absorbed what that would have been like, and I'm sure there's plenty of documentaries that I could go out and watch right now. I just haven't, and so the idea of watching something set in that time and kind of going through that part of NBA history would be, I think, really appealing. And I think your point about that being kind of the maybe birth is not the right word, but the revitalization or the bringing into the limelight or whatever, that era is before that. I mean, I know some names, but I don't know anything about just as the casual NBA fan. If you go before 1980, it's basically nothing. But I feel very attached to the early days of the 1980s into the early 90s.
That's very fair.
To me feels like that's the era before the era that I actually know a little bit about, like that I actually watched some games of. Like I watched some Michael Jordan games and such. So yeah, that was like the
exactly
pre-Jeff
like,
era. But like past that, I don't even know.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, like it like, you know, I'm with you. I'm just old enough to remember watching a couple of Jordan games and seeing Karl Malone and stuff in person. And those guys got drafted in this time period, right? Like, so they're still players from that time period, right? I think you're totally on point there. And also, like, dude, if you're I think you're not alone. My obsessive knowledge of the NBA, like the things that I do know a lot about with it, mostly just like, you know, random facts. I say no obsessive knowledge, like I'm like a source of
in all fairness, Nick, you do know more about the NBA than anybody I've ever
trivia,
read my entire
you know
life.
what I mean? Yes, but most of it goes back to the '80s and not before, because like before the '80s, the game, like, it's just, you know, like it feels like a different world. And also, dude, if you're gonna revisit that kind of stuff, sports is fun. It's supposed to be fun. I think it's cool to be able to like watch a fun show about it instead of like, you know, reading you can read really good sports books, so that's not, you know, fair. But reading a book or watching like a serious documentary on sports, it's kind of not the vibe I want when it's sports. This is already fun. This is already very fun.
Okay, all right. Well, I will definitely check that out. I mean, it wasn't what I was expecting to get from today's podcast, Nick. But I'm happy for it. Like that seems right up my alley as far as like a sort of thing that I could get drawn into, and totally. I'll definitely have to check it out.
The other thing before I let you dive in on your stuff, because you have actual topics and I appreciate you with that. I'm going to keep this one brief.
Only, Nick, I'll interrupt you, Nick. Only so good. Like, don't worry. I'm not going to blow your mind today. I'm not going to blow our listeners' minds today. But it is kind of fair. Interesting. But yeah.
The other thing I'll say is that we have Downhill World Cup coming back. There's already been some national races, and I am so excited. I don't want to like belabor the mountain bike thing, because I say that I'm not going to do it every time, and then I overdo it, and that's okay. But March 26th, we got freaking the first Downhill World Cup race, and
where's it at?
I am Lourdes, France for the first one.
We'll meet up for that one, right? Like the day before, and then we'll go give it a watch.
Yeah, dude. I would watch it online with you if you want. It's gonna be on Red Bull TV.
Here's how this goes. And I feel like maybe you've learned this, and maybe you've not. But here's how it works. You text me right before, and then I get on, because you try to tell me now, or you try to like make me remember. Like, it ain't gonna happen.
That is very, very fair.
You shoot me the text when you're watching, and then if I'm around, I'll watch.
That is very, very fair. But yeah, March 26th. March 26th, and March 27th is Downhill World Cup. March 26th is Cross Country World Cup. They always do the locations together and everything. So if you're the kind of person who want to watch that one, then yeah. I've never actually watched a cross country race, but highlights actually kind of seem like they can get kind of intense. Yeah, I am super stoked.
Do they have? Is there ever any athletes that like cross over between the two?
I think so, but not like seriously. Before, let me do one thing here. 1 sec. Before, you're gonna have to edit this out, my friend.
Editing out some typing noises. It's fine.
To answer that question, the guy who won the Downhill World Cup, this is what I was pretty sure about, but I didn't have the exact details of it. The guy who won the Downhill World Cup this last year did podiumed in a cross country race. It's a cross country eliminator. I don't know what that format is. Advance each heat until you get a final race. Anyways, he got this was during COVID when not everybody was competing, and it's weird and everything like that. So
he competed in it, but like not,
right,
didn't like win both. He's not winning the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness and whatever else.
Exactly, but I will say like cross country athletes are the same as road bikers, right? They're like it's a similar discipline with, I'm sure, similar level of fitness. It's like Olympic athletes. These guys are incredible in terms of their fitness. I would not expect a downhill World Cup racer. I mean, they are fit. Like some of the downhill World Cup guys, you can watch there's a downhill World Cup guy who's doing series of videos on his like workouts and stuff, and you can see him when he's in the gym, and you're like, oh, he looks like he could kick a lot of people's butts right now. Like he looks like he's really like he looks fit.
Yeah.
You may not think of it as extreme sport athletes don't necessarily have to have like that level of fitness. It's like a 3-minute heat, 5-minute heat. But these guys are really fit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and if you look at any of like the competitive, like long distance biking type folks, yeah, I mean, you used the phrase kick some butt or whatever. I mean,
Yep.
Yes, they could do that well.
For sure. 100%. 100%.
I'm pretty sure there are some people's thighs that are like bigger around than my shoulders. So yeah, scary bunch.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Jen and I watched some stuff on some stuff about the women's cross country field last year. And like, yeah, you're exactly right. These girls look like they got they look like their legs are like what you would expect like a video game like a fighting video game girl's thighs to look like, where it's like, yeah, because she kicks people's heads off. Like that's what she does. You know what I mean? Right. It's Street Fighter or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Except for it's real life and bikes.
Exactly. Okay,
so Nick,
tell me your thing. Yeah.
We're gonna dive into a thing here, and like after my little fun part, I am going to explain a little bit about what it is. But in my job today, or not today, but this week, I learned that a thing existed. I guess like real quick, like high level, I don't want to go into any details, but basically, I find out about things like larger loans that we funded, especially on the commercial side, and a thing that we have like monthly. And it was for a particular industry that had a particular way of doing things that I did not know exist. And so, as a person who is generally curious about all of the things, I have read up on it quite a bit. There's some pros, there's some cons, but more than anything, I just thought it was interesting that there is literally like a multi-billion-dollar industry that I did not even know was a thing that existed, and it was just here under our noses the entire time. And I felt very out of the loop. So, Nick, are you familiar with the game 20 Questions?
I am.
We're going to play the game 20 Questions. 20 Questions for our listeners is a game where you ask a yes or no question. And Nick is trying, all you got to do, Nick, and you know, I'll be generous. If you get close enough to the industry that this is, I will give it to you. So we're not going to belabor it here. You're going to get it. But I want you to do this, and then I'll explain a little bit about the specific industry.
So I'm trying to figure out what industry it is that you found out has a multi-billion-dollar industry. Is that the?
Yeah, and we're doing like a really big loan for one of the major players in it, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then I went and looked it up. So that's kind of the context.
Okay. Is it sports related?
It is not sports related.
Is it gaming related?
It is not gaming related.
Is it media related?
It's not media related. 17 to go, buddy.
I know, man. This
no
is
pressure.
Hard. Is it?
I feel like you can cast wider nets. I feel like you can cast like a 50-50 net here or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, why am I giving you advice on how to guess? I mean, you do you, Nick. I believe in you.
Is it entertainment related?
It's not.
Is it crap, dude? I don't know. My brain's not good. Is it event related? Does it have events?
No, it doesn't have events.
Jeff, I literally have no idea.
Okay, no. Well, all right. I'll help.
Okay.
I'll coach you on some good questions that I'm going to come up with by the time I finish the sentence.
This is a long sentence.
Here. I'll give you one question, Nick.
Okay.
I'll give you a question that you should ask me. Ask me, is it something that you use daily?
Is it something you use daily?
Ask if you idiot. Ask if it's something that you use daily.
Is it something I use daily?
Yes, it's also something I use daily too. In all fairness, I just wanted to be mad about it because you said it's stupid.
Okay, well that's
so something you use daily. Now, Nick, I'll give you even another one for your 7th question. Is it something that you, Nicholas, use multiple times per day? Ask me this.
Is it something that I, Nicholas, use multiple times per day?
I'm assuming
I'm assuming yes.
Yes, you use it multiple times per day.
Okay. Is it electronics related?
No, that's 8.
What do I use multiple times a day? It's not an electronic. Jeff, you know I'm addicted to electronics, right? You don't do anything that's not electronic. Right?
I promise you use this
Is
multiple
it
times
toothbrush related?
Do you have an electronic toothbrush?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, I'm going to count this as a 9th question.
Oh my god, I was kidding. You're a jerk.
No, 9. You only
trying
got
to
11
be
left.
entertaining. It's an audio medium.
In all fairness, I have chosen probably, I don't know, maybe this is entertaining. I don't know. I'll see in post how badly I feel for our listeners.
We'll figure out
because it's gonna have to stay in because it's such a big part of what I've done here.
Oh
so
my God.
better or worse. Okay,
Oh my
11 guesses left. It's not a toothbrush. No.
Is it?
Oh, actually, you know what, Nick? To be clear, you didn't ask if it was toothbrush. You asked if it was toothbrush related. So no, it is not toothbrush related.
Okay. Is that toothbrush related?
I will hold on. I will say, Nick.
Okay.
It's like this is just between you and me. It's like 1% toothbrush related. It's a secret though.
It's 1% toothbrush.
It's like 1% toothbrush related.
What's 1% toothbrush related? Is it tooth?
I mean, Nick, it's not teeth related at all. Okay. Like, well, actually, gosh dang
it. Is
it.
it hygiene related? Is it hygiene related?
Okay. So it's 3% tooth related and 0% hygiene related. I think you have like 8 left.
Is it cooking? Is it cooking stuff?
Ooh. It's not cooking stuff, but Nick, you're at least in the same
fridges?
Galaxy here.
Is it fridges?
Is it what?
Is it fridges? Or like refrigerators?
Refrigerators? No,
yes.
It's not refrigerators. Again, though, Nick, at least you are in, like, we're closer. You know what, Nick? I won't count that against you because unless you're talking about some non-electronic refrigerators, you've already eliminated refrigerators as an option.
Okay, I was thinking like electronics, Jeff, but you're right. I get it. Everything is electronics. Okay, is it cooking related in general?
You already asked that, and I said yes. It's kind of cooking related, but it's not cooking. Like it's not like it's not a nice oven.
What do I use every day? Utensils?
No, you're circling it now, though. So it's not like a nice oven company, and it's not like the world's best spork company or whatever.
I got some fancy
we're in the zip
chopsticks.
code, Nick. No fancy chopsticks. They don't light up.
You said what's the world's best spork company? I'm just telling you, if these fancy chopsticks, if they made sporks, you'd be all in.
That's true.
Jeff, this is hard.
Nick, okay,
You've asked me to use my brain in a way that,
I can't do it anymore. I'm going to give you a good hint. This is a good, solid hint. This is your last hint.
Okay, hit me.
What do toothbrushes, your teeth, refrigerators, and sporks all have in common with things that matter to all of them?
Refrigerators, food.
Yeah, it's food, you dumb. And what's food made out of sometimes?
Your butt.
Okay.
What's food made out of sometimes? I don't know. Lots of stuff. Grains?
Yeah, okay. Well, no, we're not playing this anymore. This is terrible. I'm so sorry. I could not have possibly eliminated all that. Otherwise, this would be like a 3-minute episode. But Nick, okay, so agriculture specifically is the general thing I was going for, or like just farming or whatever.
Sure.
But specifically, Nick, what I did not know was a thing that exists, and maybe I'm just ignorant, which, let's be honest, is a non-zero chance. Are you familiar with vertical farming?
No.
Like,
no. I feel like I've heard. Like, I feel like you're ringing alarm bells, but you're ringing alarm bells. And if someone said, "What's vertical farming?" Nick, I'd be like, yes.
Yes, vertical farming. I mean, you could probably guess what it is, but I've made you guess enough, so I'm just gonna kind of explain, and then explain a little bit of the history, and then explain a little bit of. So I
assume that it's farming with a vertical integration of farming.
Yeah, and specifically, it's indoors and.
Oh, okay.
Broadly speaking, without sunlight.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what? Let me pop over to my other show notes here and talk a little bit about it.
I was thinking vertical integration in like a business sense, not in a physical sense.
Oh no!
It's like what? I'm like, what does that look like? I don't like. I clearly can't think. I like clearly not cut out for business. I can't even think of what that would look like.
So yeah, no, it's the physical vertical. So it is like, picture you buy yourself like a 10-story warehouse or something like that, and it is to the ceiling with farming stuff. We'll get into kind of like what the farming stuff is a little bit. I don't really like, here's the thing, I'm not an expert on this, and I like haven't done enough to like really explain all the fine details.
Okay.
But really, I guess what it comes down to is the idea is, especially in like really like, as a society, like we have grown, and food is going to continue to be a more challenging thing to provide as our society grows. And like in dense population areas, you really cannot grow food locally, especially not in the traditional sense where like you have a farm and like you do all the farming things, and that like we're so compact, especially in big cities, that's just not plausible. And so what the idea is here is that you can, using like ultraviolet light, like LEDs and such, some really well ran, really efficient like water systems, and like some nutrients and fertilizers and such. You can do all of the things that you can farm indoors for many crops. Especially vegetables. They happen to do really well with this, especially green vegetables, for whatever reason. So,
okay.
Like your salady type things and stuff like that. They do really well.
That makes sense, and it also makes sense that like this seems like an important solution. I feel like having like your supply producible locally, even if like you're in a place that's not like your environment's not super conducive for that. That seems like the kind of thing we should have been able to do, and I can't believe I've never really thought about the fact that that's like kind of a limitation, or not necessarily a limitation. I don't really know how long people have been doing indoor farming, but that's interesting. I've never considered that.
Yeah, and I mean, people have done it, like in the sense of like people have had greenhouses and stuff like that for a long time to like kind of mitigate some of the seasonal differences, or be able to do something in a climate that like otherwise wouldn't be able to do it. To do it at this scale, that's like much more technology driven. The main con is price. Like it does have a high cost, mostly around the fact that like the sun is a very efficient way of doing the energy part of it.
Is it good?
Not a big cost. It's pretty good.
It does. Okay.
And,
I'll take your word for it.
And so like that's kind of been the thing, is like powering the LEDs to provide the light needed for plants to grow is like, it's expensive, like from a carbon footprint standpoint and other things. Like it's not super great in that sense. Right. However, and like if I've ever heard of this, it would have been in the context of like, this is an interesting idea, but it's not super feasible. But it like those LEDs have gotten way more efficient, and there's even now like people doing like basically during the day piping in sunlight through fiber optics to like lower the cost during the day for providing like light to plants and such. And it's like, it's a very, very interesting thing, especially when you consider like you can, like what you had mentioned, like you can do this in times that like you wouldn't be able to grow crops otherwise, or in places that you wouldn't have been able to grow crops otherwise, because it's completely a controlled environment. And that local ability to produce that is big.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, I know that I'm sure that the transportation, the energy for transportation is probably very efficient at this point. Our supply chains for food are probably very efficient. But I was gonna say, at least some of that you know, your cost powering these could be offset by like shorter like transportation, right? Like theoretically, in the right circumstances, at least, right? So
I mean, I think it's a big deal. Yeah,
I mean that's really cool. I mean, I think that's kind of like important. I feel like you know, Jeff, for your sake, I'm trying to phrase this in the most like non-remotely political way, but like we live in a time where we're in a very interconnected world, and we are kind of seeing that like our supply chains are not impervious, and like having extra resiliency like regionally seems like a really good and important kind of use of technology in our infrastructure,
wow.
right?
Yeah, are you saying that like maybe our constant
Jeff,
reliance on other
Look, I'm trying to say this without making a thing.
Look, I looked over the void and I'll walk back away.
It feels like there's some areas that are really vague and not at all related to anything that would upset anybody in the whole world, that we are a little over-dependent on other places sometimes. It's just in certain circumstances. And
to clarify, I'm laughing not because it's a laughing matter, but just because I can't do anything other than laugh. It's a coping mechanism. It is 100%. Very suck.
And I'm laughing and making it funny in my head because I don't know how to say this without hurting anyone's feelings, or not hurting anyone's feelings. Jeff, I
think in this case you can hurt some feelings. I think it's okay. If we're ever going to hurt feelings, it's okay.
I just want you to know, Jeff, that like my gas is literally $6 a gallon right now. So like that's where I'm at. Like, you don't have to keep that in this at all if you don't want. And I'm sorry. God.
It's fine. It's that's fine. Where I'm at. I don't think anybody knows what we're talking about at this point.
No idea. Nobody.
Anyways,
that was just a totally unrelated point.
Local access to required goods and services is nice to have.
Exactly.
Okay, well, anyways, I don't know. It is regardless of current ongoings in the world, it still is a thing, not just in the United States, but like there's lots of places that are food deserts that this would be super beneficial for. 100%. And it wasn't like a super big viable option for a very long time, and in many senses still is not. But I will say in the reading that I've done, both just as a hobby but also through work stuff, like it is really quickly becoming one of those things where I do feel like it is going to become a really big source for certain types of produce. It's not great for everything, especially not at this point, but I can see the vast majority of like leafy green type stuff. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers just from a spatial, like output per square foot, you're talking something like 350 times or 300 times more than traditional farming, which if you live in Kansas, that doesn't really mean a lot. You've been here, Nick. We have lots of land. We got all kinds of free land to grow things on. It really is where you. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, that is a very interesting thing about America in general, is that we have a ton of like. I'm not super educated on this or anything with like farming stuff, but like we have tons of land in some parts of the country, and then like I'm sure that this is like an absolute godsend in California. You know what I mean? Because we have a large amounts of farmland, but we also have places where property values are through the freaking roof, and the ability to like kind of be more efficient with how we use that for farming would be like has got to be the kind of thing that is wildly valuable to somebody, right?
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. I actually think California is not too bad off because you guys are so adjacent to like a big chunk of just like beautiful wilderness type areas that also has farmland. I feel like. To your east there.
Maybe. I think you're right, but I think it might be just like location to location, because like there's like even in towns that I've lived in, there have been like large amount of farming, and then in like people kind of don't realize how much of California is rural, but at the same time there's so many like suburban or urban and suburban areas that are like just absolutely packed full of people. But you may be right. It may not be a like I say I brought up California because I'm from here, but it may not be a California centric problem. It might be more like other city locations and urban locations. But
nonetheless, I think more than anything, it's like it was really interesting. It kind of caught me off guard to hear that we were financing one of these facilities, and I'll tell you off air kind of the details because it's kind of fun, but. The thing about I'll just kind of run through some of the pros, because like we've already talked about the cons, and like it's not there yet, but a lot of big transformative, big innovative technologies take a while before they actually are like the cost justifies the benefit that you're getting. I think we're kind of like we've turned the corner or are turning the corner on electronic EVs, electronic vehicles. Like they have current pandemic induced supply chain issues and war induced supply chain issues withstanding. Like we were well on our way where that was going to be like a big positive. And I think this is the sort of thing, like it might be less efficient overall now, but I think it's going to a place where it's going to be plenty good.
Very cool.
So here's some pros. So unlike traditional farming, you can do reliable, like year-round crop production. Like you don't have to worry about like rotating crops or seasons or stuff like that. You don't have to worry about like flooding or hurricanes or, you know, all the different reasons that crops, basically all the crazy reasons why you have to have crop insurance, because like you can have a really inclement year and really affect the yields of your farm that year. I already mentioned the space thing. I mean, as far as a per square foot, if you're talking about this in a dense area, there's nothing more benefit than the value of a square foot. So like that'll be a big benefit long term for some of these places. You can use approximately 90% less water, which I think it's something like 3/4 of water usage is agriculture. So a thing that can potentially put a 90% dent in that's the sort of thing where I even though there's other parts of this that cost more, like that's a big plus. That's a real big plus. And if other parts of that can become more efficient or more self-sustainable, that's going to be a big win.
100%.
There's no, like, you don't have to worry about like the pesticides and chemicals and stuff like that you have to do to keep crops safe in just regular farming environments, since you can control the environment themselves. The reduction of what we've already talked about, the reduction of transport costs, which is an offset to, especially like the amount of like food waste that happens in transit is like like astronomical. And
I've never considered that. That makes sense.
Yeah, like it's big. It's real big. So like there is that cost that's like kind of a hidden benefit to something that's more local.
Let me real quick interject with a very, very important comment. Okay. I have always wondered, though, in my entire life, how is it that they're transporting a whole bunch of tomatoes in the back of a truck and none of the tomatoes get squished? They probably do get squished.
Yeah, exactly. They do. That is 100% the case. Yes.
I have to interrupt your like important list of benefits to an interesting technology with my commentary on tomatoes and getting squished. Continue, please.
No, honestly, but that's a really, like, I know that's kind of a silly thing to say, but we do lose something like a third of our food that's produced to food waste, whether that be in transport or it doesn't sell at the grocery store, or it's just us not, it goes to waste in our refrigerators or whatever. So I mean that's a big amount. If we could put a dent in that, that's not nothing.
For sure.
The final thing is all of the things that are kind of like just kind of baked into the DNA of these vertical, like these big commercial vertical facilities are vertical farming facilities, are that they're all like built with automation in mind, and that just is a sort of thing. There's so much, I mean, especially when you look long term, there's so much less like manpower needed in order to like make this stuff happen. If we could, it scales so much better.
That's awesome.
And so like as the technology for making these things become more efficient, improves, then this is already built with automation at the forefront of just design and how it all works. And so it will scale really nicely as it continues to improve.
That makes sense.
Anyways, long way to say, I think it's really interesting that such a interesting part of something that we use on a day-to-day basis that involves our teeth, involves our refrigerators, involves our toothbrushes.
I really dropped the ball. I apologize to all our listeners for that 20 question.
I like that I'm sandwiching this entire bit by that bit, so that like now there's no way I can edit it out. Like,
and also you just brought the pain back, the pain of listening to me struggle back to our poor listeners. Just,
like, and to me as I edit this, 100%. And to you now as you say it.
100%. You're welcome.
But no, this is interesting. Any like So, like, having heard all this, still, like, this is kind of, maybe you've heard it in passing here or there, but not
no,
I'm
thinking that I just assume that I've heard of it. Like, so you said that, and then I thought I went to, like, vertical integration in businesses, and I'm probably just overthinking that as, like, a term that I hear, or not, you occasionally hear, like, of people talk about vertical versus horizontal integration and stuff. And so, like, I assume that my brain just went there and just filled in the blanks of, like, yeah, you could do that with farming. And then I was like, how? And then you probably can, but my brain can't get there right now. So that's probably all it was.
Yeah, I didn't go the typical business book route of telling you about all the vertical integrations, just vertical farming and such.
So the other thing I will say is that what you said about scaling makes a lot of sense too. I think that something that's scary with like the fact that we are trying to be more environmentally conscious with all our like new endeavors is that a lot of the stuff that's probably gonna be environmentally efficient is stuff that is at scale, right? Like, so like I wonder how much like the carbon footprint, and I don't say this to dismiss any thought or concern about the carbon footprint of stuff, because I care a lot about our environment. But I wonder how much of of that, like how much could you offset the environmental impact of transportation by having a very efficient, scaled up network of food production in a local area, right? Like, because if you're barely transporting it all and it's tons of food, then like you'd think that there'd be some kind of offset, even though you're using power to so,
and you know what, like I would. This would be a fun thing for uneducated Jeff and uneducated Nick to talk about off air, like to postulate all the crazy things. But like the problem is like also in the same sentence, in 10 years are all these things going to just be transported by EVs anyways, and so like the carbon footprint of those is basically neutral. Like the whole it's complicated. Like it's not easy, and we're not going to solve it on the podcast, probably.
Right, 100%. I'm just not spitballing. I'm just like letting my thoughts go here and following them an idiot. Stream of consciousness instead of obviously not trying to be prescriptive. But it's also hard because, like, the answer to that question is it's a math question, right? It's not even a question about, like, oh, could you... I mean, I'm sure you could offset some amount, but, like, what's the answer is, like, there's a math question. There's a mathematical answer in there, right? So it's not something that we would get to with just, like, theory crafting about it. And yeah.
I'll tell you what, people way smarter and wealthier than us will find out that answer, and they will let us know over the next 10 years.
100%. 100%.
It is one of those things that I really am curious. Like, there's lots of like little pockets of things that I think are interesting because I do feel like they're industries that are being disrupted. I think agriculture is going to be one of them. I don't know if that's necessarily in the next 10 years. I know like finance is, I mean, tech in general, and like what... Yeah. Like VR, AR type stuff is going to look like. And I mean, man, I had a little subnote on here just in case we like ran out of things to talk about, like a whole other thing to talk about, but we can't get into that. It's going to take like way too long. But like I have all kinds of like things that it would be so cool to like know what the next 10 years is going to hold, because it's going to be, some of these things are going to be way different than what they are today. And it's hard to know what those actually are and what that's actually going to look like, but it's interesting to think about for sure.
It's interesting because like if you look at the way that people talk about technology for 10 years away, when people are very confident, it's like they've completely missed the mark on like, or when you look back on people talking about like the 2020s, right? They've completely missed the mark on some ways, and they've completely they've completely overshot on some ways and completely undershot in others, right?
Yes.
It's always never like what your sci-fi book will tell you it is, never what some random guy who claims to be the visionary who understands how the world's going to look, once upon a time, I think people were telling us that we weren't going to have computers anymore, that you're just going to be able to do everything on your phone. And I don't think that's happening for a very long time. But there's ways that our phones are insanely capable at the same time, right? So like, it's you're completely right. I'm excited to see where that technology goes.
All right, Nick, let's wrap things up. We have a Patreon podcast. If you want to check that out, you can go to patreon.com/TimeWithSap. You can listen to whatever we talk about on the weeks that we don't release this show.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more off the cuff. Yeah, a little more off the cuff. Because you know me, I take this a little too seriously. I apologize to our listeners for being so formal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and goodness knows, like, if you need to know anything about NBA stuff, like, regardless of what I come to the table with, we will end on NBA things. So just know, like, that's what you're in for.
Yep.
You've been warned.
You can also follow us at TaiWasApp on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. And you can find all of that at TaiWasApp.com.
Nicholas, thank you for potting with me. Thank you for talking
Jeffrey,
about farms and such. It's been a good time.
It has been. Jeff, thank you for potting with me, and you are welcome. This has been the year we started the podcast. Thank you all for listening.